Welcome to this Women in Safety podcast. This is a show that provides a supportive space for women in safety careers. We break down the barriers and provide opportunities for growth. Make sure to hit that subscribe button to be notified of new episodes and join us. Now, here's your Women in Safety podcast host, Tamara Paris.
Hi, and welcome to another Women in Safety podcast. We've got a great show lined up for you today. We've got Jessica Palmer, who is the owner of Bright Minds Sleep Psychology, and Constable Amy Boudreau, who is a police officer and wellness project manager. Now, we're going to be looking at a bit of a different topic. We're going to look at the impact of lack of sleep and good sleep on our shift workers, and what can be done to help every person who is doing shift work get the resources that they need and the knowledge to ensure that they're getting a good quality sleep before they come to work. So let's dive into the conversation. So thank you for joining us today. This is awesome. It is a topic that doesn't get spoken about much. And so it's kind of like a group of workers that's kind of left out in the cold, because we often think about the people that we see during our day in those that we engage and connect with. And I know, because I had in a grocery store that was 24 hours, a lot of attention was focused on the day crew, and then the night crew, who would start at 11 p.m. and work the nights, they would almost hear nothing from corporate head office. So I'm really glad that we're actually shedding some light, the spotlight on this, to get people thinking about it. And so I wanted to kick it off by kind of looking at what is the impact that the shift work actually has to start with on our physical and mental health. Maybe Jessica, you could kick that off.
Sure, I'd be happy to. You can't really think about shift work without stopping and thinking about the circadian rhythm, and that what we're doing is asking people to work at night and sleep during the day, which goes against our internal 24-hour clock. And so it's really not what does it disrupt, it's what doesn't it disrupt. It really disrupts everything. All of our body systems are connected to this clock. Unless you shift your circadian rhythm for night work, you're really going to be constantly working against your body's fine-tuned order of operations. Can really wreak havoc on cardiovascular health, GI, insulin and insulin resistance, hormone production, and just the act of kind of pushing through night after night and then going home and trying to sleep but not getting that good sound sleep during the day just takes a huge toll on mental and physical health.
I need you to kind of describe to us a little bit more when you're talking about the rhythm, because I don't think that's something that a lot of us are educated about.
Sure, absolutely. Well, we have a circadian rhythm that sort of guides when we wake in the morning. It's sort of our internal body's clock. It guides when we wake in the morning, when we eat throughout a day, when it's time to go to bed at night, and it's still operating even when we're asleep. And all of our hormone secretion, our digestion, blood pressure, everything is really, kind of timed and orchestrated around the clock. We as humans are diurnal. That means that we are programmed, for thousands of years to wake with the sun and sleep with the dark. So unlike, say, raccoons or bats who are nocturnal, and they wake up at night and they naturally, are driven biologically to go to sleep during the day. So, as long as we're working during the day and sleeping at night, we are working in alignment with our circadian clock. And that's actually one of the things I like to really work with shift workers on, is learning how to shift your circadian rhythm so that when you work at night, you can actually be aligned.
And Amy, what is your experience with trying to shift this?
Yeah, thanks. For me, so I mean, I work shift work and I'm a police officer. I just want to mention too, not just night shift workers, but it could be extended hours. So if you're working 10 or 12 hours or even plus more than that, because let's say you have overtime or you're stuck at the office or whatever the reasons are, or you have to get up really, really early to be able to make it to your shift. So let's say you have to get up at 4 a.m. because you start at 6. If you're kind of in that zone of you're just not within the natural rhythm that Jessica was talking about with that circadian rhythm, it can still throw you off whether you're working a full night shift or not. But my experience early on, and again, because I didn't really have the knowledge or the education about what was actually happening to my body, and someone can talk to you about shift work, oh yeah, it's challenging, it's this, it's that, means nothing until you're actually in it. And you don't really realize how depleted you can actually become over a period of extended time. I was working frontline for the first 5 years of my job, and over time, the shift work, when you start to feel depleted, you start to eat differently. Maybe you're not eating as healthy as you were before. Some of your normal routines will change. So you maybe stop working out or exercising like you used to. So that really your energy reserves kind of go down. And then ultimately, if you're just not getting good sleep. So the first couple of years when I was working shift work, I could not get used to trying to sleep in the daytime and working at night. It actually took me a really long time. I'm in my 10th year of policing now, and where I'm at today compared to where I was at when I first started, completely different, because I've educated myself on different practices and routines I can use to shift my circadian rhythm, but I wasn't there in the beginning. So I suffered. I used to average 3 hours of sleep, if that. Had really hard time sleeping during the daytime. I probably, like, the sliver of light coming in would keep me awake. Temperature was warmer during the day. It wasn't as cool, so it was harder for me to stay asleep full time. And I didn't know any of those things about different tricks with white noise, maybe to kind of tune out the sounds of, because life is still going on outside of your window. You're sensitive to the slightest noises or sounds, like your senses, because again, your body is supposed to be alert, you're supposed to be awake. So I really had trouble in the beginning. I did try to take some more natural sleep aid, because I know that sometimes people will turn to, like, oh, I just need a drink of alcohol to keep me to unwind me before I go to sleep, or maybe I'm going to take a sleeping pill, which is like the worst thing you can do, because it actually throws your system off even more, and then you can become dependent. Broken sleep. So I tried to use a more natural melatonin, but even taking that I didn't feel restful, and then the different doses. And anyway, I had really struggled the first couple years of working shift work, and that's why I think this conversation is so important, so that we can maybe shed some light on some of the practices that I've discovered even over the last extra 5 years of working it. And I feel much more whole. And I'm telling you, if you're not getting quality sleep, you can't function long-term like that. You're going to break down.
And that kind of leads me into thinking about how is this going to impact our response when we're under stress, if we're having to make decisions, because you need to be rested, well rested in a lot of jobs in order to have that quick focus, especially in a job like yours where you're a police officer. Jessica, what's your insights on that?
Absolutely. I think you can't think about the effect of shift work on decision making without thinking about the effect of sleep deprivation on decision making. And we all have had a bad night of sleep, and we know how it makes us feel the next day. When, like Amy said, getting 3 to 4 hours a morning of good quality sleep, and then a whole bunch of broken sleep around that, or just really short sleep, can lead people to operating machinery, making decisions that is similar to operating a car with a blood alcohol level of 0.08. So,
Wow.
I mean, you're looking at feeling almost a bit intoxicated with your decision making. I think, it affects focus, concentration, memory, problem solving, having to make quick, fast decisions as a police officer. I can't even imagine at 3 o'clock in the morning, how anybody could really do that. Nurses, doctors, in manufacturing, they're working with like really heavy industrious equipment. And so, this definitely could affect decision making, how we just process information, and how we stay safe working shifts. And I think that's where, I'm just drawn to help this population who I feel are undertrained, with sleep training and how to cope. Like Amy said, she just had to figure it out for herself. That's not fair. What career do you go into and don't get training? Like, we should all deserve to be trained properly. And a lot of companies, I think they just assume if you've signed up for shift work, you are ready to handle it and you know what to do to do that for you. And I think we do them a huge disservice from a health and safety standpoint. And I think we could really, it's win-win. I think we could really help not only the individual shift worker to be healthier, happier, and safer. You're going to help the corporation too by training your workers on before they even take their first night shift.
Mm-hmm. Jessica, I don't even think that people even think about it. I don't think they stop and think that, oh, we're asking people to do shift work, so there needs to be training to check in to make sure that the resources are available and the knowledge of how to adjust your rhythm so that you can be healthy working those hours. I don't think it's even in the conversation.
Yeah.
Like,
I think, like Amy said, there, maybe some orientation manuals will have a little blip about the circadian rhythm and, consider blackout curtains or white noise machine, but it goes so far beyond that. And that's what I feel like my call is really just to be able to teach step by step by step. First you do this, then you do this. This is when you start drinking your coffee. This is when you stop drinking your coffee. Wear your blue light blockers when you leave in the morning. So when you get home, your brain doesn't think it's daylight. It thinks it's nighttime. So
this would actually be an opportunity for bringing in a resource. If you're sitting there and you're saying, I don't know anything about this as a health and safety professional, well, it still has to do with the occupational health of your workers. So it's still within your purview. So then you should be thinking, what can I bring in? Who can I bring in to be providing these resources? Is that what you're saying?
Yep, absolutely. And so I was hired about 5 years ago for a company who was turning into a 24/7 operation. They hadn't been before that. And their HR guy was awesome. And he contacted me because he knew I do a lot of sleep psychology, work with chronic insomnia and other sleep disorders. And he said, can you create a workshop? Just want to prepare them. I want to give them all the information, that they need to go from just working 9 to 5 to, we're going to be taking turns on 12-hour night shift, day shift, and a slow rotation. So I said, well, let me look into what can be done. And I did some consultation and I pulled some journals from the library, and there's a lot that can actually be done. And when I did the workshops with the corporation, several of the shift workers came up to me afterward and said, I've been working shifts for 7 years at different places. How come I've never been taught this before? And I said, I have no idea. And they were all just, gobsmacked and just like, this is awesome. I can't wait to implement these, ideas. I feel like I can actually get better control over my sleep and my health and start functioning. And, you know, similar to what Amy said, some turn to alcohol to sleep. They're you know, overdoing it with the sleeping pills. Even on their day off, they can't sleep. I just worked with a guy who hasn't worked shifts for about 10 years and hasn't slept well since. And he finally figured it out. You know, he's still been snacking in the middle of the night when he wakes up and not able to sleep a solid night, even though he's been working days for almost 10 years. So it can really turn into a circadian rhythm disorder for some people, and they really need help for it. But we can prevent that with proper evidence-based sleep training.
And I don't even think that people consider their rhythm. I don't think that's something in high school we're even trained about, when we really should be. Now, Amy, I wanted to bring you into the conversation too. So like, what things are you doing with your teams in order to help provide them the resources and the knowledge?
So first, I just want to kind of touch on what was being said what I really like that you're bringing up is it touches on so many things. It's not just your sleep cycle. Our bodies are interconnected. We need to look at ourselves as a holistic approach, mind, body, spirit, everything is interconnected. So similar to what Jessica was saying with how it affects not just your sleep, but your hormone levels, your mood, blood sugar level, with how you're eating, your metabolism, which then transpires down into your gut health and your digestive issues and everything. So someone could have one problem with how they're feeling, but it could be interconnected with all of these other things. And when you're working shift work, you are naturally at a higher risk of metabolic diseases, long-term for chronic illnesses, gaining weight, other types of things. So, you know, it's not, you know, even if someone's trying to lose weight or they're trying to feel better and have higher energy levels, and how does this translate into not just your work performance, but your personal life? What is that? How is that weighing on your personal relationships? Are you triggering and you're reacting because you have low energy, and now you are less tolerable and you are getting into arguments easier because you don't have the patience? Are you behaving that way with coworkers at work? How is your performance at work when you're on the job and you have to interact with people, or a conflict comes your way, or just dealing with other community members? It could be anybody. How are you interacting with that person now because you are off balance? And now it's like a ripple effect. Someone's healthy and they're feeling good, they're gonna perform better, you're gonna get quality work, they're gonna have less errors, you know, because it doesn't just, again, like, it's not just about sleep, but it's also, there's different rhythms in your cognitive functioning at different times of the day. So, you know, there's research studies that show that, you know, let's say if you're working 4 shifts in a row, you're working, let's say 2 day shifts and then 2 night shifts, or whatever your cycle is with your work schedule. That first transition day from day shift to night shift is usually has the highest or most acute injuries or like errors or mistakes that are made, because a lot of the times people are still waking up at their regular hours to be with their family or whatever their responsibilities are. And a lot of times people don't even take a nap, and then they go to work for that first night shift. So you got like 14, you know, 12, by the time you've been already up the rest of the, you know, the whole day, and then you're working the whole day. Like, there's days where you're almost up 24 hours. Like, it's not.
So Jessica, I was hoping that maybe, do you have any plans or recommendations that you can like share with health and safety professionals that they could lay out in the work, like just Amy was mentioning?
Yeah, so first I will say, you know, I love how Amy said the organizations have to take responsibility for this. And, you know, whether it's your HR department or your EH&S manager, you know, going to these people who have the power to, you know, get this training onboarded for every shift worker, to get everybody caught up so that, you know, they know how to cope with shift work, how to sleep effectively during the day, and how to feel naturally more alert at night, and to be in alignment with the night work or the slow rotation. I will say that, you know, it's my opinion that rapid rotation, such as what Amy is experiencing and what a lot of first responders experience, I feel should be abolished like once and for all. But we can't do that before we educate everyone, or everyone will go crazy. The idea, I mean, right now, a lot of shift workers that are on the rapid rotation, they're just doing what Amy's doing their best to, stay in alignment with their regular circadian rhythm, and cope the best they can, shifting over to a new rhythm for 2 or 3 days and then back for 2 or 3 days. And if you tell someone who doesn't have the know-how that, oh, you know what we're going to do? We're going to give you now 2 weeks on the night shift, including your days off. And then you're going to go to 2 weeks of the day shift, including your days off. They're going to say, no, that sounds like hell. I would never want to do that, because they don't know how to do it. But if we go to a slow rotation, so if workers can be at least 2 weeks on the same shift, including their days off, and have the proper education, then they actually can shift their rhythm, much like you do if you go to Italy for 2 weeks. You get there after, a few days, you start to adjust. And in fact, in my program, I teach them how to start adjusting a few days in advance, so that when they get there, they can kind of hit the ground running more. What to do on their days off, so that they're partially aligned and not completely flip-flopping, like Amy said, just going back to the regular go to bed at 10, wake up at 7 schedule, just out of relief, really. I think most of them are just, they can't only push through, but so many nights. And then knowing what to do in the mornings, to block the sun when you leave work. One of the biggest mistakes a lot of shift workers make is hopping in their car and driving home as the sun's coming up. And you can't help it. You got to get from point A to point B, but they get all this sunlight on the way home, and the brain automatically starts producing cortisol, getting you ready for the day, promoting wakefulness. And by the time you get home to your blacked out bedroom, it's pointless at that point. And likewise at night, they're not getting that bright light exposure that they normally would be getting, by sitting by a window in their office, or out driving, in their cruiser when they're working the day shift. And so we actually have to create opportunities for artificial bright light at night. It psychs the brain out. The brain starts to believe that you're in another time zone. And then you can literally be completely aligned and have circadian alignment on the night shift. So, I like to teach workers to advocate for themselves. I say, get me your EH&S manager's phone number. Have them call me. I will help them understand. I will let them take the program for free. I have it e-learning. It's funny. It was pre-pandemic that I was doing these workshops, and I just realized how difficult it is to train shift workers when you're not a shift worker. And I was like, this is really a scheduling nightmare. Having to come in on this week for this crew and that week for that crew, catch them when they're on the day shift, or I have to go in at night. And, I created the e-learning program so that they can watch it any time of day on any device. It can be easily accessed. It's 1 hour. It's not like, a 10-hour program or anything. And it's something that the individuals can seek out themselves. But personally, I feel like it's the responsibility of the employer to pay for this for them. I feel like this is training,
Well, and to also be devil's advocate, it is health and safety.
Yeah.
And so it does fall right into the genre of making sure that we have a healthy work environment. If we're asking people to do shift work, and there can be possible health risks from long-term exposure to doing it incorrectly, then it should fall into that area of the business that looks after this. Saying, well, the workers should self-educate is an option out, which I don't think the company should be getting, because they're the ones who are making the schedule. And so like one of the things I'm hearing is that is looking at the schedule and making sure that the schedule is so that if it is a shift worker, they're coming in the evening and they're leaving before sunrise. So that way, like what you were saying about the sun coming up, if you make the shift so it doesn't occur. So even thought in those areas, like how are you planning out the shift? Is it going to, and I think there's even education that's needed around the supervisors and those people making the shifts, because I can guarantee you this is not being thought about by the management level either.
Right. You know, so I think that we need, you know, major changes at the, you know, shift policy level, you know, that will trickle right down. But I think providing proper education to the workers, you'll find workers advocating, asking. I worked with a paramedic not long ago who asked, can I actually be on 2 straight weeks, including my days off, so that I can be healthier and I can shift my rhythm and then go back to days for 2 straight weeks. I mean, I ask anybody, would you rather go, you know, overseas or work in China for 4 days and then come home and work for 2 and then go back and work for 3 and then come home and work for 4? Or would you rather go there for 2 straight weeks, do your work, have your days off, come back and work for 2 straight weeks? It's so obvious, you know. So
keep in mind also though that the health and safety professional, part of their role is they should be advocating to ensure that the workers are getting what they need in order to help a health and safety work environment. It's all good for us to say, oh, the workers should advocate. Well, that's only works for certain personalities. Not all personalities have that. And there's people that are working in environments where they're marginalized. If they spoke up, that would ping them. So never mind what time your shift is, you wouldn't even get a shift because you spoke up. So I really want to not lay it on the worker, for the worker to be independent and get your education, because the company is the one who should be providing the training in the health and safety to educate the employees if they want the employees to be working shifts, because it's an exchange, right? You're asking for the employees' time in relation to giving them a financial exchange. But in that, you should also be providing the employees what they need to be able to function properly. And if that means that your management and your supervisors who are making the schedule also have to be thinking when they're doing out the schedule, that needs to be part of the conversation. Amy, I saw you unmute. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to bring up a point to what you're saying. And, you know, I like that you're talking about, you know, what else can an organization from an organizational standpoint do? And, you know, we can talk about supervisors and how they should manage it, but ultimately it's going to come from the top down. So I think if an organization is not sure where to begin or how to even implement some of this stuff, they can even look into getting a survey, finding out what are the members experiencing. You know, as an example, a lot of police services conducted internal reviews or surveys to find out, you know, what's the impact of shift work on when you have court the next day after a night shift and you have to go testify and be on the stand and cognitively have to, you know, so like looking at that, or looking at, you know, did you work a certain amount of overtime and are you coming in for your next shift? Is there a reasonable amount of time in between your 2 shifts where you can get 8 hours of sleep? Or how much time have you had on and how tired are you to even drive home? That's a safety issue. You know, is there a shuttle service? Is there someone that can drive you? So like looking at your own industry, you know, whether that's in the healthcare profession or whatever other types of sectors you're working in, you know, as the employer, looking at, let's ask our members, what are some of the negative experiences that they've had so far with maybe shift work? How is it impacting them in a certain way? And based on whatever your sector is, you'll find answers based on maybe where some of the issues, and then making those adjustments and making changes to policies and procedures and practices to make sure that you are putting your members at the forefront of their well-being, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this was a great conversation so far. I did want to ask you both to set out some real actionable things that people can do. So 3 recommendations that people who are listening today could actually turn around who are health and safety professionals and give to their teams, what would those be?
I would say abolish a rapid rotating shift if that's what you're operating on. You're looking for your next catastrophic event to occur. Staying in that, really difficult type of shift. Extend to at least a slow rotation if you need to do rotation. Get all of your workers trained. If you need information on how to do that, reach out to you, Tamara, or they can reach out to me directly.
Yep.
I would be happy to talk with them about any kind of corporate plan to get that onboarded as soon as possible. Invest in blue light blocking sunglasses for all of your staff. They're like $10 or $15 a pop from Amazon. You can buy them in bulk. Look into getting bright light boxes, little portable ones, stations set up around your facility so that it's the equivalent of a cloudy day. I mean, workers would probably just want to double check they don't have eye disease or some things to look into for people that shouldn't use them. But that can give you a little boost of energy. It will also help your brain believe that it's night. And so those are some like physical things that they could actually provide to the workers on site. And just thinking what else? Educate. And I love the idea of taking a survey, like Amy said. I think that's a great idea, a great place to start so that you can actually build morale and help them feel supported and listened to and heard, because nobody's asking. No one's asking shift workers, how is that for you? What's going on with your sleep? Do you just bounce back? Have you gained weight? How's your health? No one's asking.
No.
And like Amy said, protecting their mornings for sleep and not scheduling morning meetings, not expecting them to show up for court if they've been on a night shift the day before, providing maybe some healthy, nutritious opportunities, and just doing whatever you can to be empathic to their experience and their sacrifice that they're making for their job. Thank you so much for having me. This has been wonderful. I can't wait to hear what Amy would suggest too.
Thanks, Jessica. Those are all great tips. I know you kind of focus more on what the organization or the employer can do. So I'll kind of focus on maybe more of what the individual can do. Because we all know what we need to do sometimes. To a certain degree, we know that we should maybe go to bed earlier, or we should, have some type of like sleeping routine. But, and I've been guilty of it too, where I'm like, oh, I need to go to bed sooner, or I should have I should have done this. And then you get caught up with stuff that you're doing, or you're reading, or you're doing something with your family. So you just really need to set some boundaries to make sure that you are getting the sleep that you need. Even if you have, aside from, let's say if you have insomnia or you have trouble falling asleep, you need to set up a routine where you can get into a rhythm of, I'm getting ready for bed, I've got my downtime, I'm getting my body ready so that it knows it's time to go to sleep, whatever that unwinding looks like. Maybe you're not in front of the TV or the computer because of that blue light that Jessica mentioned, but really getting your room ready. Setting the mood. If you do have trouble sleeping, look up different breath exercises. There's when you're breathing from the belly and you're really focusing on expanding the belly out when you bring the breath in and not from the chest portion, it actually stimulates your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest, through your vagus nerve. And that's going to help you relax, sleep. It's going to de-stress you. These are even practices that you can do if you're, stressful at work, but understanding different things that you can do as an individual that way. If you're at work, I feel like we've become a culture that's addicted to coffee. You have to have your coffee, or you have too much of it, and maybe you have it maybe too late in during your night shift. So try to limit having coffee. I would say at least 4 to 6 hours before you're even going to go to sleep, or try to. And even though you might not think it's going to affect you, because I work with people and they'll go, hey, do you want a coffee? It's like 4 a.m. Like, no, we're supposed to be off work in 2 hours. And how are you going to go to sleep? So maybe people don't think it'll affect you, but, and you want maybe the coffee to stay awake while you're driving. But there's other tricks that you can do, like breath exercises, or on your lunch break, maybe take a quick nap as opposed to, drinking coffee and staying up, because that'll kind of give you a quick energy burst, maybe 20 to 40 minutes, or do a light workout that will kind of re-energize you. And then you're tiring your body so that you can sleep, and then you feel rested. So, maybe taking a hot bath when you get home, or a shower, because that's going to stimulate, again, your relaxation response. So just knowing little tricks like that you can use on an individual level, in the time being, and just, again, set boundaries, let your family know that you really need to get a certain amount of sleep. And if you go into sleep debt, try to make it as quickly as you can. If you only got 3 hours the one night, you really need to get more the very next day.
And I would also think to add here is try to have a daily routine. That's what you do when you're up during the day, is that you have a routine. And so the same thing if you're doing shift work. So if you were a person that maybe you get up, you go for a jog, and then you have breakfast or something, you could still do that as a shift worker. At least that's what I did when I was doing a bit of shift work. A friend of mine suggested that. So we get up, we do our jog, then I eat breakfast, then I go to work, then I come home, like you were saying, run a warm bath. It was a really great way to just kind of get the body relaxed to thinking, and then even like just read a book or something, like kind of mimic what you would have done if it was flipped, only you're doing in the evening. But I wanted to pick up also what you were saying about the lighting. One, the lighting at work, and two, the proper setup at home to create darkness. It's almost like, Jessica, people should be providing an assessment to the workers for their personal environment to say, okay, let's kind of look at, like, where do you sleep? Is that set up for optimum sleep? What are your thoughts on that? And we'll close it out.
Yeah. Well, in my training program, I definitely cover sleep hygiene for the shift worker, because just like Amy said, life is going on in the real world during the day, and they have to mask all of that noise. And you would be surprised how many shift workers don't actually have blackout curtains. It shocks me. And I don't know how they expect to sleep solidly with the bright light coming in, but a lot do. So you're right. Just having a survey, getting the EH&S staff to, survey their workers and find out, do you sleep in a blacked out bedroom? Do you use white noise, earplugs, eye masks? Do you have a great wind down routine or a bedtime routine? Because you're right, that really conditions the brain and cues the brain that sleep is coming. And on the flip side, at work at night, having dim light conditions really sets the shift worker up for getting even more sleepy. And so having nice bright lights on, at work, when they're needing to stay up at night is super important. Keeping the environment cool. We don't want it too warm and cozy and dim. You can imagine some security officers, that must be really hard for them to just sit in isolation and stay awake all night in those circumstances. But absolutely doing a survey for, their sleep environment. The company that I worked for initially, their HR manager gave everybody that attended the workshop blue light blocking sunglasses to wear over their prescription lenses on their ride home, just in case the sun was coming up or they had to run a quick errand or take their child to the bus stop. In addition, he gave them all a $100 gift card to Lowe's to get some blackout curtains, or Amazon even has them for less expensive. I have some, just links on my website just for a quick, survey. But these things are small but powerful, and that's all of the tips for helping shift workers. They're very small changes that can have a massive impact on someone's life.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been amazing.
Yeah, thank you for having us. This is such an important topic, and I'm really glad that we could shed some light on some healthier ways to manage shift work moving forward. So thanks.
I appreciate you being here so much, Amy, as someone who works shifts. I think your experience is just so powerful, and you're inspiring for so many, and such an excellent advocate, not only for mental health. I know you're a mental health advocate, but absolutely for just health and safety in general. You're making a big difference for all the shift workers out there. So thank you. And thank you, Tamara, for having us. This is such an important topic and very rarely talked about. And I feel like you're an amazing resource for so many, because you have a huge following. So you're making a huge impact on thousands, if not millions, of shift workers just by sharing this information with your network. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, because it is a topic, as you said, that is not, the spotlight never gets shine on. And we're doing a disservice to those workers when we don't think about that, you know. Absolutely. And so thank you both. Well, thank you for joining that amazing conversation with Jessica Amy. We hope you enjoyed the discussion. If you're looking for the episode notes, please go to SAFEpedia.com, and you can read all about Amy and Jessica, how to contact them, and what they've been doing on the episode page. And if you're looking for more health and safety content to share with your team and your network, go to SAFEpedia.com. We are updating our content daily. Until next time, stay safe.